She kissed my forehead, called me a failure. Then security screamed my real name. I'm Robert Callahan, 64 years old. And I've been my family's best-kept secret. For 6 years, my daughter-in-law Lauren treated me like the hired help in my own building. She'd make me eat in the kitchen during family dinners, tell neighbors I was their charity case. And yesterday, she served me divorce papers at my grandson Ethan's birthday party, demanding custody because I was too poor to provide stability. But when I touched that penthouse elevator glass to help my grandson, the biometric scanner didn't just recognize my fingerprint. It displayed my name as the building's owner. $850 million in Manhattan real estate. Lauren's face went white as every party guest realized. The poor janitor they'd been pitying actually owned the ground they stood on. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I simply handed her an eviction notice. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. But this story starts 3 hours earlier, when Lauren made the biggest mistake of her gold-digging career. October 15, 2024. Wentworth Place Co-op, 912 Fifth Avenue, Upper East Side, Manhattan. I was setting up my grandson Ethan's 8th birthday party in our building lobby, when Lauren walked in wearing her $24,000 Hermes Birkin bag, the one she bought with money she thought came from my son Michael's accounting job. She looked at me arranging folding chairs and shook her head. Robert, you can't seriously expect our guests to sit on these cheap things. They're the same chairs we use for building meetings, I said quietly. Exactly my point. She pulled out her phone. I'm calling the caterer to upgrade everything. Michael can afford it. What Lauren didn't know was that Michael's salary couldn't cover a tenth of her spending. The money came from somewhere else entirely. The chairs are fine, Lauren. She turned to face me, that look of disgust I'd seen for 6 years. You know what's not fine? Having Ethan's party in a lobby where his grandfather works as the help. She gestured around the marble floors, the baccarat crystal chandelier. These people already think we're charity cases because of you. The first sign of contempt. Making me eat in the kitchen during family dinners while she entertained friends in the dining room. Robert can't really afford to eat with us. She'd tell guests. We help him out. The second sign. Telling Mrs. Langford from 4B that I lived in the basement. Because Michael's too kind to put his father in a home. Truth was, I had my own apartment. 3A. $4,200 a month rent paid by building management. Because building management was me. Lauren, the party's for Ethan. Let's focus on that. Don't lecture me about my son. Her voice carried across the lobby. You've done enough damage to this family. I kept arranging chairs. Italian Carrara marble floors beneath my feet. Installed during the $180,000 restoration I'd authorized in 2019 as building owner. Lauren opened her designer bag and pulled out a thick manila envelope. Actually, this is perfect timing. I've been meaning to give you something. She handed me the envelope. Heavy paper, legal weight. Divorce papers? I asked. Michael's divorce papers. I'm filing today. Her smile was cold. I'm also filing for full custody of Ethan. My hand stayed steady, but something shifted inside me. On what grounds? Poverty. Michael can't provide a stable home with you dragging him down. She gestured at my Carhartt work jacket. $89.99. Honest wear and tear. Look at yourself. Look at where we live because of you. Where we lived. 7-figure apartments in one of Manhattan's most exclusive buildings. Because of me. Lauren, I've already spoken to a lawyer. Having an impoverished dependent living off my husband makes Michael look financially irresponsible. She pulled out her phone again. I'm posting about this party on social media. The contrast will be perfect evidence. The building's main entrance opened. Eleanor Hayes, head of the co-op board, walked in with her usual grace. Good afternoon, Robert. Lovely setup for Ethan's party. Lauren's head snapped around. Oh, Mrs. Hayes. I was just explaining to Robert that we'll be moving soon. I can't have Ethan growing up around this. Eleanor's expression didn't change, but I caught something in her eyes. She knew things Lauren didn't. Moving? How interesting. Eleanor's voice was perfectly neutral. Yes, somewhere more appropriate for a growing family. Lauren gestured dismissively at me, away from dependencies. That's when the first guests started arriving, 24 people total. Building residents, Ethan's school friends, parents with cameras and social media accounts. Lauren straightened her shoulders. She was about to put on a show and I was about to let her. The party guests filtered into the lobby and I watched Lauren transform. Bright smile, welcoming hostess, loving mother, the performance of a lifetime. But I knew what was really happening here. This wasn't just a birthday party. It was evidence collection. While she greeted Ethan's school friends, I reviewed what I'd lose if I stayed silent. First, Ethan's future. Lauren's custody filing wasn't just about the divorce. She'd already shown me the papers. Grandfather's financial dependency creates unstable household environment. Child exposed to poverty-level living conditions. Father's inability to establish boundaries with impoverished family member. My grandson, who called me Grandpa Robert and brought me his broken toys to fix, would disappear from my life forever. Second, 37 years of sacrifice. I'd bought my first Manhattan building in 1987 when Michael was barely 3. Worked construction during the day, managed properties at night. Built an empire one apartment at a time while everyone thought I was just the super. Why the disguise? Because real estate moguls get targeted. Their families get kidnapped. Their children get used for money. I'd seen it happen to friends in the business. So I stayed invisible. Let everyone think Michael worked his way up alone. Let them assume I was just the helpful father who fixed their pipes and collected their packages. But invisibility had a cost. For 6 years, I'd watched Lauren spend money she thought came from Michael's accounting job. $40,000 handbags. Private school tuition at $15,000 per semester. The BMW lease at $800 monthly. Michael made $62,000 a year as an accountant. Lauren spent 6 figures annually. She never questioned where the money came from. Just assumed she deserved it. Robert. Ethan ran over, clutching his new Lego Millennium Falcon. $849.99. Look what Mom got me. That's incredible, buddy. I knelt down to his level. Want to build it together later? Can we do it in your apartment? Mom says we're moving somewhere without you. The knife twisted. My grandson didn't understand what was happening to him. I was just Grandpa Robert who lived upstairs and always had time to help with homework. Lauren appeared beside us, camera ready. Ethan smiled. This is for Grandpa Robert to remember us by. Her voice dripped false sweetness. She snapped several photos. Me in my work clothes, Ethan in his birthday outfit, the lobby's elegant background. Perfect evidence for her poverty narrative. Actually, let's get a better shot. She guided Ethan toward the service elevator. This is more authentic. More authentic. The service elevator where building staff transported supplies. Where she wanted to photograph me with my grandson to prove our appropriate relationship status. Eleanor Hayes watched from across the lobby, still saying nothing. Lauren, I said quietly. Maybe we should focus on Ethan having fun. Wham. She positioned herself for another photo. Ethan, tell Grandpa Robert what Mommy explained about our new house. Ethan looked confused. That you're going somewhere better. That's right. Somewhere we don't have to worry about. She gestured vaguely at me. The third thing I'd lose, my self-respect. 6 years of biting my tongue. 6 years of being treated like charity in my own building. 6 years of watching my son get credit for wealth I'd created while his wife planned to destroy our family. If I stayed silent now, she'd win everything. Custody, money, respect. Ethan would grow up believing his grandfather was a burden who had to be left behind. But if I revealed the truth, the thought stopped me cold. If people knew I owned Wentworth Place and 37 other Manhattan buildings, if they knew about the $850 million portfolio, everything would change, privacy gone, security compromised. The simple life I'd built to protect my family destroyed. But Ethan was worth it. My grandson deserved to know his grandfather wasn't a failure. Deserved to inherit the empire I'd built for him. Lauren was setting up another photo when my phone buzzed. Text from my property manager. Callahan Properties LLC quarterly report ready. $340,000 in property taxes processed this month across all 38 buildings. Confirm receipt. I looked at the message. $340,000 in property taxes. More than Lauren spent in 2 years. My finger hovered over the reply button. Robert. Lauren's voice cut through my thoughts. Can you move out of the shot? You're blocking the chandelier. The $95,000 Baccarat chandelier I'd approved for installation. I looked at Ethan, my grandson, being used as a prop in his mother's scheme. I looked at the guests, some of whom lived in apartments I owned. I looked at Lauren holding her phone, documenting what she thought was evidence of poverty. Time to change the narrative. Actually, Lauren, let's talk. She looked up from her phone, annoyed. We're in the middle of... about the money. Her expression shifted, sharper, more focused. What money? The money you spent. Michael provides for his family. That's what husbands do. Michael makes $62,000 annually. And you spent $40,000 on a handbag last month. Lauren glanced around. Other parents were watching now. She lowered her voice. That's none of your business. Ethan's future is my business. Ethan's future doesn't include you. The words hit like ice. Eleanor Hayes moved closer, pretending to examine the flower arrangements. The custody papers mention my financial dependency, I continued. Because it's relevant. Is it? Look around, Robert. Look at yourself. I looked. Carhartt jacket, work boots, hands that showed decades of honest labor. What do you see? A burden. Ethan looked up from his Legos, sensing tension. Mom, why are you being mean to Grandpa? Lauren's hostess smile returned instantly. We're just talking, sweetheart. But her eyes stayed cold when she looked at me. The papers say Michael can't establish boundaries. He can't, with his impoverished father. That's right. Who lives off his generosity. Obviously. Each word was a nail in my coffin. She was building her case publicly, using me as evidence of Michael's poor judgment. Dr. Harlan from 7C joined the conversation. Robert, how lovely that Michael can support his whole family. Lauren pounced. Yes, Michael's been incredibly generous, taking care of his father's housing, food, medical expenses. Medical expenses? I asked. Your insurance premiums? The copays Michael covers? My insurance premiums paid directly by Callahan Properties LLC, the property management company I owned. Michael pays my insurance. Of course he does. You can't afford coverage working as? She gestured around the lobby. Working as what? You know what? Say it. Fine. Working as the building superintendent. Dr. Harlan nodded sympathetically. That's wonderful of Michael to help family. He's very generous, Lauren agreed. Almost too generous. Almost too generous. The setup for her custody argument. Michael's inability to say no to his needy father made him an unfit provider. Speaking of generosity, I said, the party catering cost $3,200. Lauren's eyes narrowed. Michael approved it. On what budget? Our budget. Based on his salary? Based on our household income, which comes from where? Michael's accounting job, obviously. Mrs. Langford from 4B leaned in. Accounting must pay better than I thought. Lauren's smile flickered. Michael's very skilled. $62,000 annually, I said quietly. What? Michael's salary. $62,000. That's private information. Is it enough for your lifestyle? The question hung in the air. Other guests were listening now, doing mental math. Ethan's private school $15,000 per semester. BMW lease $800 monthly. Designer handbags, jewelry, this party. The numbers didn't add up. Michael has other income sources, Lauren said quickly. Such as investments. What investments? I don't need to justify our finances to you, but you're justifying mine to the court. Her face flushed. That's different. Oh, because you're a dependent. I'm his wife and Ethan's mother. Exactly. Who wants custody? Who deserves custody? Based on financial stability. Yes. That comes from where? We were back to the central question. The money that funded Lauren's lifestyle that she attributed to Michael's accounting job. That came from somewhere else entirely. Eleanor Hayes stepped forward. Perhaps we should let Ethan enjoy his party. Lauren rounded on her. Mrs. Hayes, you've seen this family situation. You know Michael struggles to support everyone. Eleanor's expression remained neutral. I know many things about this building's residents. Then you understand why I need to protect my son. From what? From poverty? From instability? From dependency cycles. She pointed directly at me. From him? The words echoed in the marble lobby. 24 guests heard them. Ethan looked confused and hurt. Lauren, I said quietly. You might want to reconsider. Reconsider what? Your evidence. My evidence is standing right here. Is it? Something in my tone made her pause. What's that supposed to mean? It means appearances can be deceiving. Stop talking in riddles. I'm not. Then what are you saying? I looked around the lobby. The chandelier, the marble floors, the Art Deco details. My building, my property, my investment. I'm saying you should be careful what you assume. I don't assume anything. I know exactly what you are. Do you? A broke old man living off my husband. And this building? What about it? Who owns it? The co-op board. And who's on the board? Mrs. Hayes and other residents. Anyone else? Lauren looked confused. Why would I know that? Because you live here. So you should know who signs the checks. The conversation was heading toward dangerous territory. I could feel the moment approaching when everything would change. Lauren sensed it too. Her posture shifted, defensive but still aggressive. I don't care who signs what checks. I care about protecting my son from your influence. My influence? Your poverty? Your dependency? Your failure? The last word hung in the air like a challenge. Ethan tugged on my jacket. Grandpa, what's failure mean? I knelt down to his level, my decision crystallizing. Sometimes, Ethan, people think they know things they don't really know. Like what? Like who's really taking care of whom? Ethan wandered back to his toys, but the tension in the lobby remained thick. Lauren had drawn her line in the sand, and now I had to decide whether to cross it. Robert, Dr. Harlan said gently, perhaps we should focus on Ethan's celebration. Of course. I stood up, brushing dust off my work pants. Just need to check a few things for building maintenance. I pulled out my key ring. Not the single apartment key most residents carried, but a master set. 15 keys total, each one labeled with precise building codes. Wow, said Mr. Donovan from 12A. That's quite a collection. Building super perks, I said casually, but Lauren was watching me closely now. What do you need all those for? Access to maintenance areas, storage rooms, utility spaces. I selected a brass key marked penthouse service. Sometimes repairs require special clearance. Eleanor Hayes stepped closer. Robert handles many sensitive areas of building operations. Lauren's eyes narrowed. Sensitive how? Security systems, property records, board documentation, Eleanor explained. Robert has remarkable knowledge of this building's operations. Because he works here, Lauren said dismissively. Yes, Eleanor agreed. He works here. But there was something in her tone, a weight behind the words that Lauren missed. I walked toward the main elevator bank, keys jingling. Ethan followed, curious. Grandpa, what's in the penthouse? The nicest apartment in the building, I said. $28 million worth of nice. 28 million? Ethan's eyes went wide. That's a lot. It is. Who lives there? I paused at the elevator. The penthouse button required special access. Biometric scanner plus key authorization. Only one person in the building had that clearance. Someone who values privacy, I said. Lauren joined us, suspicious. Why are you telling him about the penthouse? He asked. And you know the price how? Good question. Building superintendent didn't typically know property values. Maintenance workers didn't usually have detailed knowledge of real estate prices. Building gossip, I said. Residents talk about $28 million apartments. Rich people like to discuss money. Do they discuss it with the help? The help. There it was again. Lauren's fundamental view of my place in the hierarchy. Sometimes. I pressed the elevator call button. The doors opened, revealing the polished interior and dual control panels. One for regular floors, another for penthouse access. Fancy, Ethan said. Very fancy. I showed him the special panel. This section requires authorization. What kind? Fingerprint scanner plus key access. Lauren leaned forward. Why would you know that? Building security briefings. All staff get trained on emergency procedures. Not exactly a lie. I had received security briefings, as the building owner, reviewing safety protocols. What kind of emergencies? Medical emergencies requiring penthouse access. Fire evacuations, utility failures affecting the top floor. All legitimate reasons for building management to have access codes. Have you ever been up there? Another loaded question. The honest answer was yes, dozens of times. For property inspections, renovation planning, systems maintenance, because I owned it. Once or twice for what? Leak repairs. The penthouse has complex plumbing systems. Complex how? I could feel Eleanor Hayes watching this exchange carefully. She knew exactly how complex the penthouse systems were, because she'd served on the board when I'd approved the $2 million renovation. Italian marble bathrooms, heated floors, custom fixtures, I explained. When something breaks, it requires specialized knowledge. And you have specialized knowledge enough to avoid flooding the apartments below. Ethan pressed his face against the elevator glass. Can we see it sometime? The penthouse. I looked at Lauren. That would require owner permission. The owner doesn't live here. The owner values privacy. What's his name? I met Lauren's eyes. That information is confidential. Even from residents. Especially from residents. The elevator doors closed, but Lauren stayed focused on me. You seem to know a lot about confidential building business. Comes with the job. What job exactly? Building superintendent. And that includes property values, security systems, and owner information. It includes whatever the job requires. She stared at me for a long moment, searching for something she couldn't quite identify. This conversation isn't over, Robert. I know. But what she didn't know was that I was ready for it to continue. The party was in full swing when Lauren decided to make her move. 24 guests, multiple phones recording Ethan's birthday live stream broadcasting to family members abroad. Perfect audience for maximum humiliation. She tapped her champagne glass with a fork. The lobby fell silent. Everyone, if I could have your attention for a moment. Parents gathered closer. Children paused their games. Eleanor Hayes positioned herself near the main elevator. I wanted to take this opportunity to share some important family news. My stomach tightened. This was it. The public execution she'd been planning. As many of you know, our family has been going through some transitions. Lauren's voice carried perfectly in the marble space. Michael and I have made some difficult decisions about our future. Dr. Harlan leaned forward. Everything all right, dear? Actually, yes. Things are going to be much better. Lauren smiled at Ethan, who was building Legos near the children's table. We're going to be moving to a place where Ethan can have more stability. Moving? Mr. Donovan seemed surprised. Wentworth Place is pretty stable. Financially stable, yes, but emotionally. Lauren glanced meaningfully at me. Sometimes family situations become too complicated. Mrs. Langford nodded sympathetically. Multigenerational living can be challenging. Exactly. Lauren's tone grew more confident. When older family members become dependent, it creates an unhealthy dynamic. The words were carefully chosen. Clinical. Designed to sound compassionate while delivering the knife. Dependent? Oh, asked Dr. Harlan. Well, Robert has been living here for 6 years now. Michael covers his housing, his food, his medical expenses. Lauren gestured toward me. It's been a tremendous financial strain. Murmurs from the crowd, sympathetic glances toward Michael, who had just walked in from work, still in his suit. Michael provides for everyone, Lauren continued. But there comes a point where adult children have to set boundaries. Michael looked confused. Lauren, what are you? I'm explaining to our friends why we'll be moving. Why Ethan needs a more stable environment. Stable? Michael's voice carried a warning tone. Without the complications of supporting someone who can't support themselves. The lobby fell silent except for the fountain's gentle bubbling. Lauren had done it, publicly branded me as a financial burden in front of everyone we knew. Ethan looked up from his Legos. Mom, are we really moving away from Grandpa? Yes, sweetheart. To somewhere better. But I like living near Grandpa. You'll understand when you're older. Eleanor Hayes cleared her throat. Lauren, perhaps this conversation would be more appropriate privately. Actually, Eleanor, I think it's important for everyone to understand. Lauren's confidence was growing. Michael has been incredibly generous, but generosity has limits. She pulled out her phone and opened the banking app. In fact, let me show you exactly what I mean. This was going too far. She was about to expose private financial information in front of 24 people. Lauren, I said quietly. You might want to stop there. Stop? What? I'm just showing people how much Michael sacrifices for his family. She turned the phone screen toward the crowd. $62,000 annual salary, but look at our monthly expenses. The numbers were brutal. Rent allocation $4,200. School tuition $2,500. Car payment $800. Insurance $450. Food and utilities $1,200. Total monthly expenses $9,150. Michael's monthly gross salary, $5,167. The math was impossible. You see, Lauren's voice turned triumphant. Michael makes $62,000, but we spend over $100,000 annually. How is that possible with a dependent father who can't contribute? The crowd exchanged glances. The numbers didn't add up at all. Michael must have other income, suggested Dr. Harlan. Michael has exactly what you see, an accounting job and a generous heart. Lauren looked directly at me. Too generous for his own good. Mr. Donovan frowned. But Wentworth Place alone costs more than his entire salary. Exactly my point. Michael can't afford to support 3 people on one income. Then how? Mrs. Langford began. He can't. That's why we're moving. That's why I'm filing for divorce. That's why I need full custody of Ethan. The words hit the lobby like a bomb. Divorce. Custody. In front of Ethan, who was now staring at his mother in confusion. Mom, Ethan's voice was small. What's divorce? It's when people who made mistakes fix them, Lauren said coldly. What mistakes? Sometimes people get trapped in situations that aren't good for them. Trapped? How? Lauren looked at me, then at Ethan. Sometimes people think they're helping, but they're actually hurting. Like when someone can't take care of themselves but won't admit it. Ethan followed her gaze to me, his grandfather, his building buddy, his Lego partner. Grandpa hurts people. The question broke my heart. Not on purpose, Lauren said. But when someone can't support themselves, other people have to carry the burden. I'm a burden, I asked quietly. You're a financial dependent who's preventing this family from moving forward. The crowd was uncomfortable now. This had gone from family announcement to public humiliation to something approaching cruelty. Lauren, Michael said sharply. That's enough. No, Michael, it's not enough. It's time everyone knew the truth. She raised her voice to address the entire crowd. Robert Callahan has been living off my husband's generosity for 6 years. Free housing, free food, free medical care. While Michael works 60-hour weeks trying to support his father and his son. Eleanor Hayes stepped forward. Lauren, I think what, Eleanor? That we should pretend this is sustainable? That Michael should sacrifice his entire career supporting someone who won't help themselves? I think, Eleanor said carefully, that appearances can be deceiving. Nothing deceptive here. The numbers are clear. Lauren waved her phone. 62,000 income, 100,000 in expenses, and a dependent father who contributes zero. Zero? I asked. Zero? What exactly do you contribute, Robert? Really, besides maintenance work that barely pays minimum wage? The lobby was dead silent now. Even the children had stopped playing. What do you think I contribute? Nothing. That's my point. You contribute nothing while Michael sacrifices everything. She turned back to the crowd. That's why we're leaving. That's why I need custody. Because my son deserves a father who can focus on his family instead of supporting dead weight. Dead weight. In front of my grandson, in front of everyone. Ethan stood up from his Legos, tears in his eyes. Grandpa's not dead weight. Ethan, you don't understand. Grandpa fixes things. Grandpa helps people. Grandpa knows everyone in the building. Ethan. Grandpa has keys to everything. Out of the mouths of babes. Ethan had just provided the perfect opening. I looked at my grandson, then at the crowd, then at Lauren's triumphant face. Time to show her what those keys really opened. Lauren, I said quietly. You're absolutely right. She blinked, surprised. I am. Yes. It's time everyone knew the truth about who contributes what to this family. Hey, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my key ring. Starting with these. Ethan's right about the keys, I said, holding up the master set. I do have access to everything in this building. Lauren looked confused. Because you're the super. Let me show you something. I walked toward the penthouse elevator, the one with the special access panel. 24 party guests followed, sensing something significant was about to happen. This elevator requires 2 forms of authorization, I explained. First, a specific key. I inserted the brass key marked penthouse service. Second, biometric verification. I placed my right hand on the scanner. The device hummed softly, processing my fingerprint. Robert, Lauren said impatiently. We don't need a maintenance demonstration. This isn't maintenance. The scanner beeped. Green light. Then something unexpected happened. A display panel activated above the scanner. Text appeared in bold letters. Welcome, Mr. Callahan. Building owner access confirmed. The lobby went completely silent. Building owner, Dr. Harlan whispered. Lauren stared at the display. That's impossible. The elevator doors opened, revealing the penthouse access panel. But now there was another display showing a building directory with ownership information. Wentworth Place Cooperative Primary Owner Robert Callahan. Callahan Properties LLC Acquisition Date March 3, 1987. Eleanor Hayes stepped forward, no longer hiding her knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to meet the actual owner of Wentworth Place and 37 other Manhattan buildings. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. 37 buildings? Mr. Donovan's voice cracked. $850 million in total property value. Eleanor continued. Robert has owned this building since 1987. Lauren's face went white. That's impossible. You're the superintendent. I work as the superintendent, I said quietly. I also own the building. But you live in 3A. I own 3A. I own 4A through 4F. I own the penthouse. I own the building. Ethan was the first to speak. Grandpa, you own our house. I own the whole building, buddy. Cool. But the adults were having different reactions. Michael looked stunned. Dr. Harlan seemed fascinated. Mr. Donovan appeared confused. And Lauren looked like she might faint. This is some kind of joke, she said weakly. Eleanor, would you show them the building records? Eleanor Hayes pulled out her tablet and opened the official co-op files. Wentworth Place is owned by Callahan Properties LLC, Robert Callahan, sole proprietor. She turned the screen toward the crowd. Purchased March 3, 1987 for $18 million. Current assessed value $42 million. $42 million? Lauren's voice was barely a whisper. The penthouse alone is worth $28 million, I said. Current market rate for apartments here is $4.2 million average. Dr. Harlan was doing rapid mental calculations. Robert, if you own 38 buildings? 38 buildings, yes. Portfolio value $850 million. Annual property tax payments $340,000. The number that had been on my phone screen earlier. $340,000 in monthly property taxes alone. That's more than Michael makes in 5 years. Mr. Donovan stammered. It's more than Michael makes in 10 years, I corrected. Lauren finally found her voice. But you wear work clothes. You fix pipes. You collect garbage. I wear work clothes because I work. I fix pipes because they're my pipes. I collect garbage because it's my building. But the money? Michael's expenses are paid by Callahan Properties Property Management. Michael's rent, Ethan's school, your car, your credit cards? All covered by building revenues. The full picture was finally clear. Lauren had been spending my money while treating me like a charity case. The $62,000 salary she began. Michael's spending allowance. His actual income comes from the family trust. Family trust, Eleanor smiled. The Callahan Family Educational Trust, $50 million set aside for Ethan's future. Michael manages the trust as co-beneficiary. $50 million. Lauren swayed on her feet. Ethan's college fund, I explained. Plus graduate school, plus seed money for whatever career he chooses. Ethan tugged on my jacket. Grandpa, what's $50 million? It means you can be anything you want when you grow up, buddy. Even an astronaut? Even an astronaut. But Lauren wasn't finished processing. The divorce papers, the custody filing. Cite my financial dependency, I said. Your claim that Michael can't afford to support his impoverished father. But you're not impoverished. No, I'm not. You're rich. I'm comfortable. Eleanor Hayes laughed. Robert, you're worth nearly $1 billion. That's more than comfortable. The party guests were exchanging looks of amazement. Their building super was secretly a real estate mogul. The man they'd been sympathizing with was actually one of Manhattan's wealthiest property owners. Why didn't you tell anyone? Dr. Harlan asked. Privacy, security, family protection. I looked at Ethan. Rich kids get targeted. Rich families get used. I wanted Michael and Ethan to have normal lives. But I made Michael pay for everything. Lauren's voice was hollow. Michael doesn't pay for anything. Building management handles all family expenses. Michael's job is just his hobby. Hobby? He likes accounting. The trust pays him to manage our books. The revelation was complete. Lauren's entire worldview had just collapsed. The poor dependent father she'd been planning to abandon was actually the source of her family's wealth. The custody papers, she whispered, will be interesting to explain to a judge, I said. Claiming financial instability while living in a building owned by the alleged dependent. The divorce papers claim Michael can't afford to support his family, while spending money generated by his father's real estate empire. I didn't know. No, I agreed. You didn't know. You assumed. Ethan was still processing his own revelation. Grandpa, if you're super rich, why do you work in the building? Because work gives life meaning, Ethan. Money is just a tool. Work is purpose. And you like fixing things. I like helping people, whether that's fixing their pipes or ensuring they have nice places to live. Eleanor Hayes addressed the crowd. Robert has never raised anyone's rent in 6 years. Never evicted anyone for late payments. Uses building profits to maintain the highest standards in Manhattan. That's why our maintenance fees are so low, Mr. Donovan realized. That's why our lobby looks like a museum, Dr. Harlan added. That's why Robert is always available for repairs, Mrs. Langford concluded. They were finally understanding. The man they'd seen as the helpful building super was actually their landlord, their benefactor. The reason their building was Manhattan's best-maintained co-op. But Lauren was still struggling with the implications, the humiliation. Everything I said about dead weight and financial burden and dependency? I asked gently. Yes, that was about your assumptions, not reality. I called you a failure. You called someone you thought was powerless a failure. Turns out you were wrong about the powerless part. The crowd was watching this exchange with fascination. The ultimate status reversal playing out in real time. Lauren looked around at all the faces, realizing that everyone now knew the truth. The gold-digging daughter-in-law who'd publicly humiliated her wealthy father-in-law while spending his money. What happens now? She asked quietly. I looked at my grandson, still clutching his Lego set, still trying to understand why the adults were acting so strange. Now we discuss boundaries. The party guests gradually dispersed, but the core family members remained in the lobby. Michael, Lauren, Ethan, Eleanor Hayes, and myself. The marble floors that had witnessed Lauren's public humiliation now hosted a very different conversation. Michael, I said quietly, take Ethan upstairs. We need to talk to his mother privately. But I want to hear about the buildings, Ethan protested. Later, buddy. Right now, the adults need to have a serious conversation. Michael scooped up his son. Come on, Ethan. Let's go play with your new Legos. Will Grandpa tell me more stories about being rich? We'll see. They disappeared into the main elevator, leaving Lauren, Eleanor, and me alone in the lobby. Lauren stood near the fountain, still processing everything. Her designer handbag suddenly looked different, not like an achievement, but like evidence of money she'd spent without understanding its source. Lauren, I began. We need to address the legal documents you filed today, the divorce papers and the custody claim. She nodded slowly, not meeting my eyes. Your filing states that Michael cannot provide financial stability due to supporting his dependent father. I know what it says. Do you understand why that's problematic now? Because you're not dependent. Because the dependent father owns the building where you live, pays for your son's education, covers your living expenses, and maintains a $50 million trust for his grandson's future. Eleanor Hayes opened her tablet. Lauren, I have the building's financial records here. Would you like to see exactly how much Robert has spent on your family's welfare? Is that necessary for legal purposes? Yes. Eleanor turned the screen toward Lauren. Housing costs $4,200 monthly. Ethan's school $15,000 per semester. Vehicle lease $800 monthly. Insurance premiums $450 monthly. Utilities, maintenance, property taxes allocated to your unit $600 monthly. Total monthly support $6,500. $72,600 annually. More than Michael's entire salary, Lauren whispered. Significantly more. All paid by you. All paid by Callahan Properties, which I own. Lauren sank into one of the lobby chairs. The judge is going to see all this. The judge is going to see that you filed for custody while claiming poverty. Despite living rent-free in a building owned by the grandfather you're trying to exclude from your son's life. It's worse than that, Eleanor added gently. Lauren, you publicly humiliated Robert in front of witnesses while spending his money. That's going to look very bad in family court. What do you want from me? Lauren asked. I want you to understand boundaries, I said. What kind of boundaries? First, the building lease. Your name is not on any Callahan properties. Michael is the leaseholder as family member. If you divorce Michael, you have no claim to building residence. Lauren's eyes widened. You're evicting me? I'm explaining your legal position. Without Michael, you have no right to live here. Second, Eleanor continued, the custody filing. You cannot claim financial instability while living in a $42 million building, owned by the grandfather you're trying to remove from Ethan's life. Third, I said, the trust fund. Ethan's $50 million educational trust requires family unity. Specifically, it requires his father and grandfather to both approve major financial decisions. You're cutting Ethan off. I'm explaining that divorcing Michael while claiming his father is a burden. Makes you ineligible to manage Ethan's inheritance. The implications were sinking in. Lauren's divorce plan would leave her homeless, custody-less, and financially cut off from the very resources she'd been trying to claim. What if I withdraw the divorce papers? That's between you and Michael. What if I apologize? Apologies don't erase public humiliation. What if I stay married and try to make this work? I studied her face. Fear, not sincerity. She was calculating survival, not expressing remorse. Lauren, answer honestly. Do you love my son? I do. You respect him? Yes. Do you respect me? Longer pause. I didn't understand. Do you respect me? Now I do. Because you learned I have money. Because I learned I was wrong. You were wrong about what? About who you are. I'm the same person I was this morning. Same work clothes, same job, same apartment. The only thing that changed was your knowledge of my bank account. She had no answer for that. Eleanor Hayes, I said, please prepare a formal building lease amendment. Lauren's name is to be removed from all Callahan properties effective immediately. Robert, Lauren said quickly, please. Michael can maintain his residence as family member. Ethan is always welcome as my grandson. But Lauren's access to building amenities is now conditional. Conditional on what? Respect, dignity, basic human decency. Eleanor was typing notes on her tablet. I'll prepare the paperwork. Lauren will need Michael's sponsorship to remain in the building. And Lauren, I continued, the custody papers will be contested with full financial disclosure. Every dollar you've spent from Callahan Properties accounts, every benefit you've received, every public statement you made about my supposed poverty, you're destroying me. I'm protecting my grandson from someone who thinks love and family loyalty depend on bank balances. I made a mistake. You made a choice. You chose to humiliate someone you thought was powerless. I can change. Change is possible. Trust takes time to rebuild. Lauren looked around the lobby. The marble floors, the crystal chandelier, the elegant details that surrounded her daily life. What do I do now? That's up to you and Michael and Ethan. Ethan will always be my grandson. That never changes. And the money? The money does what it's always done. Takes care of family who deserve it. The elevator doors opened. Michael and Ethan returned hand in hand. Grandpa. Ethan ran over. Dad showed me pictures of all your buildings. Pretty impressive, right, buddy? Can we visit them all someday? Ethan looked at his mother, then back at me. Grandpa, are you really super rich? I'm super lucky to have you as my grandson. That's not what I asked. It's the only answer that matters. 3 weeks later, the consequences of Lauren's public humiliation had rippled far beyond Wentworth Place's marble lobby. The divorce papers were withdrawn quietly without fanfare but officially. Lauren's lawyer had taken one look at the financial disclosure documents and advised immediate withdrawal. You cannot claim poverty while living in a building owned by the man you're calling a financial burden, he'd explained. No judge in Manhattan would take that seriously. The custody filing followed, dropped completely. The $50 million trust fund made Lauren's claims of financial instability impossible to defend. How do you argue that a child needs protection from poverty when that child's inheritance exceeds most people's lifetime earnings? But the real consequences were social. Mrs. Langford from 4B stopped by my workshop with a formal apology. Robert, I'm mortified that I believed Lauren's story without questioning it. You've been nothing but helpful to everyone in this building. Dr. Harlan invited me to join the Wentworth Place Board of Directors. We need someone with your financial expertise, she'd said. I declined politely. Better to maintain some separation between owner and operator. Mr. Donovan started bringing me homemade cookies every Tuesday. My grandmother always said to treat the superintendent well, he explained. I just didn't realize how well I should be treating you. The building gossip network, which had previously pitted poor Robert Callahan, now buzzed with different energy. Residents began sharing stories about my small kindnesses over the years. Never raising rents, always available for emergencies. Maintaining the building better than properties twice its value. But the most significant consequence was Michael's revelation to his colleagues. I told them at work, he said during one of our evening walks. About the trust, about your buildings, about everything. My boss offered me a partnership track. Because of the money? Because I've been handling $850 million in assets without them knowing it? Turns out that's pretty impressive experience. Ethan adapted to his grandfather's wealth with 8-year-old practicality. He told his friends at school that his grandpa was secret rich, which led to several entertaining parent-teacher conferences. His teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, asked if I might speak to the class about real estate careers. Only if you promise not to tell them how much money is involved, I said. Lauren's adaptation was more complicated. She started therapy twice-weekly sessions with Dr. Morrison on East 73rd Street. I need to understand why I value people based on their apparent status, she told Michael. She returned the Hermes bag. $24,000 for something to carry my phone and wallet, she said. I don't even like the color. She volunteered at Ethan's school library 4 hours weekly reading to kindergarten classes. I want to do something that helps people instead of impressing them. And she started calling me Robert instead of you, or avoiding my name entirely. The most revealing consequence came during Thanksgiving dinner. Robert, Lauren said, setting down her fork, I need to ask you something. The family paused. 3 weeks of careful politeness, but this felt different. When I said those things at Ethan's party, did you know you were going to reveal everything? I knew it was possible. Were you planning it? I was planning to protect Ethan, by humiliating me by showing you the truth. But you let me keep talking. You let me make it worse. I let you show everyone who you really were. She nodded slowly. I was a person who thought money determined worth. You were a person who made assumptions. Are you angry with me? Anger is temporary. Disappointment lasts longer. Are you disappointed? I'm hopeful. For what? That you'll teach Ethan better values than the ones you had 3 weeks ago. The conversation continued over dessert. Lauren asked about the buildings, about my investment strategy, about how I'd kept the secret for 37 years. Weren't you tempted to tell people? To get credit for your success? Credit from whom? Everyone. Society, family, people who underestimated you. Lauren, I didn't build wealth for social credit. I built it for family security. But don't you want recognition? I want Ethan to grow up understanding that work has dignity regardless of wealth. That treating people well matters more than impressing them. Is that why you stayed undercover? That's why I'm still undercover. What do you mean? I gestured around the dining room. Nothing has changed. I still fix pipes, still collect packages, still manage building maintenance. But people know now. Some people know. The people who need to know. And everyone else sees what they've always seen. A building superintendent who takes pride in his work. Don't you want more recognition? I want my grandson to respect honest work and judge people by their character. Ethan looked up from his pie. Grandpa, when I grow up, can I fix buildings too? You can do anything you want, buddy. Even if I don't want to be rich. Especially if you don't want to be rich. 6 months later, I found myself exactly where this story began. In Wentworth Place's lobby helping Ethan with a new project. This time a Lego reconstruction of our building. Grandpa, should I make the penthouse bigger? Build it to scale, buddy. Everything looks better when it's proportional. Lauren walked through the main entrance, returning from her library volunteer shift. 6 months of therapy and service work had changed her posture. Less performance, more presence. Robert, Mrs. Rodriguez asked if you'd consider guest lecturing about property management. To 8-year-olds, and to parents interested in real estate careers. I'll think about it. She paused near Ethan's construction project. That's very detailed. Grandpa knows all the measurements, Ethan said proudly. Of course he does. No sarcasm this time. Just acknowledgement. Michael emerged from the elevator in his work clothes. He'd taken a construction management position with Callahan Properties. Hands-on experience with property development, he'd explained. Turns out I like building things more than counting numbers. We were still the same family, still living in the same building, still gathering for Sunday dinners. But the boundaries were clear now. Respect wasn't negotiable. Family meant mutual dignity. Money was a tool, not a measure of worth. Ethan, I said, watching him place tiny Lego people in the lobby. What's the most important part of any building? The foundation? Close. The people who make it home, even if they're secret rich. Especially then. If you've ever been underestimated because of your job, your age, or your appearance, share your story in the comments below. Sometimes the quiet ones have the loudest impact.